Welcome to lesson 1.2, dividing decimals. This starts on page 13 in your book. So if I look at page 13 in the book, it tells you when dividing decimals by decimals, it's helpful to change the divisor to a whole number. You can do this by multiplying both the divisor and the dividend by a power of 10, so the divisor is a whole number. Place the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal point in the dividend, and then divide as with whole numbers. And they give you all these examples, right? So we took notes. My computer was not up and running, so I'm going to run through this kind of sort of fast because everybody's already had the live lesson. We took notes about dividing decimals, and I did use the first example. Find 52 hundredths divided by 1 3/10. You have to know whenever problems like this are presented to you horizontally, what the pieces and parts are, so you know how to place them in the division box. The first one always presented is called the dividend, and the second one's always the divisor. The dividend always goes inside the box of the division box, and the divisor goes outside the division box. And of course, we know the quotient is the answer to your division problem. So what they're saying here is 1 3/10 divided into 52 hundredths has to be changed. If you multiply both of these by 10, that's what's happening when you move your decimal one place to the right. If you were to move it 2 places to the right, you'd be multiplying both by 100. 3 places, you'd be multiplying both by 1,000, and so on. So I did red pen to show you how this works. If I move it one place in the divisor, I've got to move it one place in the dividend. And I always rewrite my problem with cleaned up. And then the last thing you got to do is place that decimal up in the quotient, and then you can totally forget about the decimal and divide like whole numbers. And I just wrote the rules. You might want to pause the video to write the notes. You must make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal to the right. And that's what the book is telling you, multiplying it by 10 or 100 or whatever's necessary. Keep in mind what you do to the divisor, you must do to the dividend. So if you move it one place to the right in the divisor, you must move it one place to the right in the dividend. Place the decimal in the quotient and then divide as with whole numbers. And here's the actual problem. Now, I did a guess and check here. This is what the 5th grade teachers taught from all the comments my children made. They took the divisor right here, and then they would guess a number, and they would just do multiplication to do that. Now, you don't always have to do that. I like to do the addition method as well because some children are stronger with addition, and that's absolutely fine. And this is the same problem, okay? And what I did was I just added groups to find out how I could get close to what was made available as a dividend. And as you can see with the addition method, it's 4 groups, and there's your 4. It's the same as multiplying 4 times 13 to use up all 52. Then the example number 1 on page 13 talked about Jamelia wants to buy a bottle of lemonade at the convenience store. She buys a 16.4 ounce bottle that cost $4.92. How much does this bottle of lemonade cost per ounce? This is unit rate. They want to know how much it is for each ounce. So we set the problem up, and in our notebooks, we just kind of set the problem up, and then we evaluated it and said, we got to move that decimal one place to the right. What I do in the divisor, I do in the dividend. I write my problem all cleaned up. I place my decimal up here in my quotient, and then I just forget about it and multiply just like whole numbers. And once again, I did guess and check to the side to do some side work. But you could, let me find the page, could do the addition method, which is just adding them, and it's still the same. See the guess and check and the adding? You're still going to get 492. You're still going to use 3 up there in your quotient, but you've got to be careful to place it correctly. You can't put this 3 anywhere, because if you put the 3 on this side of the decimal, then you're saying $3. It has to be on the right side of the decimal in the first position, just past the decimal, because that stands for 3 dimes or 30 cents. So when it says cost per ounce, you have to keep that in mind, that it is 30 cents, and you have to write it in money form because cost means money, right? Have to use a dollar sign, $0 and 30 cents. You have to annex a 0 to represent the pennies and the dollars. If you have nothing for those spots, you have to represent those spots with 0. And then we went to page 14, and we talked about Mark buying rice. And the problem in the book says Mark spends $24.85 on rice for his restaurant. If the rice cost 71 cents per pound, how many pounds did Mark buy? We set the problem up with the decimals, and we looked to see how many times we had to move it or multiply it by. In this case, we multiplied both by 100, or we just simply moved it 2 places to the right. We rewrote our problem, cleaned it up. I used the addition method over here to add groups until I got close to the numbers that I wanted. I asked myself, how many sets of 71 can I take from the 2? And of course, it was 0. I moved over 1 more digit. How many sets of 71 can I take from 24? Again, 0. Moved 1 more digit. How many sets of 71 can I take from 248? And I added them up until I got to 213. And that's 3 sets. So I subtracted that out, got 35. I brought down my next digit to give me 355. So I just continued adding up sets of 71 until I got to the 355. My quotient says 35. So that means Mark bought 35 pounds of rice. The next problem was wanting you to learn how to annex zeros when necessary, okay? There's not enough decimal places in a dividend. You need to make those places by annexing zeros to the right of the dividend until the quotient is found. So we did this in our notebook as well. We wrote the problem down, 7 hundredths divided by 1 75 hundredths. And then we evaluated the problem, noticed that we had to make our divisor a whole number, moving it 2 places to the right and the dividend 2 places to the right. We rewrote the problem and cleaned it up. So now it's 175. It was divided into 7. But I can't do that. So I had to annex 2 zeros after the decimal point to make it 700. Now, if I'd only put just 1 0, I still wouldn't have been able to take out 175 from 70. That's how I knew I had to annex 2 zeros. So then I started the process all over again. How many sets of 175 can I take from the 7? It was 0. Then I looked at 70. How many sets of 175 can I take from 70? Again, 0. So then I looked at 700. And I used the addition method over here, and I kept adding groups of 175 until I got to 700. And luckily, I have no remainders. So it is 4 hundredths is my answer for my quotient. And that was all we got to, was page 14. And part 2 will be done in page 15, 16, 17, and then the homework, and 18. And the homework will be page 19 and 20, which will be assigned at the end of the recording of part 2. Thank you for watching.